So now that your older kids are back in school for the year, let's talk about organizing for preschoolers. I know that a lot of the moms out there that I've worked with over the years usually have more than one child, and the hardest time for organizing is that period of time when you have one child that's kind of gone off to school and you've got another child at home who is almost in school. And this is even for the parents who have their youngest child maybe in a part-time preschool or Mother's Day Out program. This will actually help you with that schedule and keep you even more organized. Because I think a lot of you say to yourself, my child wakes up in the morning, plays with a bunch of toys. I take them to school or like a preschool or a Mother's Day Out program. I come back home, I do a complete cleanup, and then I'm trying to do all of this other stuff in the 2 to 3 hours that they're at the Mother's Day Out program, or maybe they're only at preschool 2 days a week. Maybe they're 2 or 3 years old and you're like, we just signed up to do the 2 days a week to kind of ease them into a schedule. But you feel like some of the time that you have to yourself is really being taken up by doing the cleanup. And so you never really feel like you have all of your hours to do the other stuff, even if you're still doing errands for the house or grocery shopping or whatever it is. There's still that nagging feeling of, I need to get the house cleaned up, even just for a few minutes, just so I can have some sanity. So today's episode is going to be split into 2 simple parts. It's not going to be very long. I know I get long-winded, but trust me, stick it out through the entire thing and we will come up with a simple solution for you so that when your older child's at school, your younger child is doing the part-time thing, you don't feel like you're spending all of your time just playing cleanup by yourself, because that's not fun. Okay. Part 1 is the actual activity of cleaning up. And for those of you who are familiar with the cleanup song, don't worry, I'm not going to sing it. But it is including your little one in the cleanup efforts. And it's not just saying, hey, you need to help me clean everything up. Playing with the toys, as far as dragging out all of the little stuff, whether it's the really tiny little parts like Legos or the little accessories for Barbies, whatever it is, you can actually structure that playtime. And it doesn't have to feel so rigid. It doesn't have to feel like, okay, now you feel like playing with this in this isolated little area. All it means is that you are going to teach your child that if you have items in cases, which we're going to talk about the second part of the episode, you can only have 2 cases out at one time. So maybe they do want to play with their Barbie stuff, but they also want to play with a puzzle. They can have all that stuff out together. They can have both cases open because the parts are so different, right? The puzzles in the puzzle case and the Legos or the Barbie accessories are going to look very different. So there's not going to be a lot of confusion as to which case does this belong in when we actually go to clean up. If you start now while your child is 1.5 years, 2 years old, 3 years old, teaching them this method, it's going to be a lot easier when they get older and they want to reach a lot of stuff on their own, and they can reach a lot of stuff on their own, because that's really when it becomes a problem, is when your child gets mobile and they get fast and they have access to pretty much everything that you've had to grab for them over the last few years. So what you're going to do, step 1, is every morning that the child gets up, even if they go directly to their toys and you are okay with that, step 1 is saying, listen, you are only going to pull out 1 case at a time. Once they get used to that, that's when you can kind of introduce the second case or the second tote or the second cube or the second basket. Or if they have a lot of similar items in one big cube, they just pull out 1 cube. So it may sound like you're going to fight an uphill battle, but If you focus on that one thing, and that's the one thing that you teach them for the entire week, you are investing that time in your child so that when cleanup happens, they're going to learn where it came from. They're going to know what case it came out of. You put it back in the case, and then the case goes back to where you have it organized, okay? So let's flip-flop a second to the organizing part of it. When I say case, you do not necessarily have to get a project case. You don't necessarily have to get a certain type of cube or a certain kind of bin. You can actually use really cheap shoe boxes or like the little totes that are shaped like a shoe box, and you can put a lot of stuff in that. If you have a puzzle that your child likes to do and they really don't need to look at the box, they really don't need to look at the picture, say it's just like a 10-piece puzzle or maybe even a 20-piece puzzle, that is something that you can think about actually throwing away and just having all of the pieces in a Ziploc bag, or maybe you just have a tiny shoebox for that puzzle alone. Especially if that puzzle has accessories. Like say you get some kind of Disney puzzle and in the box you have the puzzle, but then you also have maybe like a Disney toy, or maybe there's just accessories or items that go with the puzzle. If you get some kind of game or puzzle that comes with a lot of stuff in the box and the game and or puzzle is separate, you can put all of that in a shoebox, but the actual puzzle is going to be in a Ziploc bag. So once you actually have a system for even one puzzle or one toy, then you can go put it on the shelf somewhere. And if you don't have bookshelves or cubes, these are so popular in kids' rooms and play areas because you can stack stuff up on the shelves and you can put stuff up higher. If they are like 3 years old, 4 years old, and they can only reach so high, you do still have the ability to put stuff up higher that you don't want them to access all at once. That way, if they're messing up shelves, they're only messing up the first shelf, second shelf, maybe the third shelf, but then everything else stays organized. And so they're only focused on what they can actually reach. And then once they help you organize that, everything from their head up stays organized. And then you can rotate that out for them. And that is what a lot of parents do. Now, just a really simple note about bookshelves. When they get to a certain age, you don't have to worry about this as much, but if you do have a little one, I do recommend, and the product companies recommend, you actually securing the furniture to the wall. That is important because, like I said, they may not be able to reach the higher shelves, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to try. Some kids will put their foot up on a shelf, they'll grab the next shelf, and they will pull themselves up. And even if they don't weigh a lot, even if they don't look like they're very big and they can't do it, a lot of those bookcases, because of the weight distribution, will fall towards them. And there have been many instances, unfortunately, where shelves have come down on kids and they have been seriously injured. So I do want to make that recommendation, whether it's a cube, a bookshelf, a dresser. That actually happened to my child one time, and I only laughed because I was right there, and it was something that I knew in the moment I shouldn't have done. And by the time I actually went to close the dresser drawer, he had already pulled on it, and the dresser started falling forward. So I only chuckled at that because I remembered the gymnastics I had to do to take a few steps and take him off of the front of the drawer and set the dresser back up and basically tell his father, like, we should probably do something about this. So with that said, you can include your child in the organizing efforts, and I do encourage it, whether they are at home the entire day or whether they're home part of the day. Now, just to know about them getting up and going somewhere, whether it's a preschool or Mother's Day Out program, if they get up and the first thing they do is go to a program, I would encourage you to teach them to not even pull out any of their toys before school starts. This is the perfect time to get them in the habit of waking up, wiping their eyes, going in for breakfast, cleaning up their face, brushing their teeth, getting dressed, and getting their little backpack together. So if you're like, oh, there's no way my child's going to be able to do that, now is the time. My child is very well behaved, and I have no problem saying that. But the reason he is like that is because I was actually able to stay home with him from the time he was born until he was 4 years old. And even though I was working part-time when he was 2 to 4, the biggest thing happened when he was 4, and that was I became a single mom. Everything was on me the majority of the time. And so all of those years that I invested in him when he was little, even though he was only a year and a half, 2 years old, I'm like, no, we've got to get ready for school first, because he had a Mother's Day Out program every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 12. And that is why they have those classes and those programs set up the way that they do. Not only to get them introduced to being away from the home and in a school environment for shorter periods of time, but it also creates a very natural and very teachable structure at home in the morning that doesn't require very much. It's not like they're trying to get their calculus homework done in the morning and they're also trying to get their hair slicked back and they're trying to pack their bag for soccer. You're dealing with a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old that really all they have to do is get up and show up. And as long as you have their diapers, their wipes, their change of clothes, their snack, whatever they take to that program, there's not much to prepare for. And so it helps you as a parent, but it also helps them. So organizing for preschool, let's kind of look at this as a full picture just for a moment. Let's say you wake up on Monday and your preschooler doesn't have anything to do. You don't have anywhere to be. I would recommend, just like a regular school day, trying to stay on a very similar schedule, because at some point they may be in a program where they are there throughout the day and they do take a nap. Then they come home, they have a day off, and that day is kind of random like it used to be when they were little. And then they go back to the school the next day and the teacher says, well, they were a little bit cranky today and they actually didn't take a nap. That is going to create more confusion at home. So organizing your preschooler isn't just about the stuff. It's actually organizing their time and their schedule. I can't tell you how many times I would get online as a new parent and I would read all of the baby blogs and Reddit threads, which I can't remember if there was even Reddit back then, but there were mommy chat rooms, and someone would say, oh my gosh, my child actually is going down for a nap every day. It all started at the Mother's Day Out program, and we basically just asked them, what time do they go down for a nap at school? And we followed a lot of the same program. And that's something that a lot of programs will share with you is, listen, this is our schedule. And I know that there are some daycares that actually have like a live feed, or they at least send clips throughout the day like, hey, we did snack time at this time, we did playtime. Let that child's school help you with the schedule, especially when you're tired and especially when you're trying to deal with an older child who has their own schedule in either kindergarten, or maybe they're already in 3rd grade or 4th grade and they have, sports, and you're trying to keep the little one on something similar so that at night they can go to bed around the same time. And you also have that nighttime freed up where you can maybe even just sit back and watch a show that doesn't involve trains and boats and whatever. So with that said, step number 1 is get at least one toy or one group of toys into some kind of organizing bin, tote, or project case. Okay, this isn't about organizing the entire playroom all at once, because once you do it on a smaller level, it's going to be easier to duplicate and you can do it week to week. So step 1, get these items that your child plays with the most. If they do get up in the morning and go straight for a certain group of toys, get those toys organized first so that when they get home from school, so you can do this project during the day when they're at school. When they get home from school, take them to the toys and say, look at this. Look, they're all together. Isn't that fun? And make it a fun thing and say, this is how we take them out. Maybe let them play with those items 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes you to prepare dinner, or maybe go do something else. And then come back and say, okay, now we're going to clean up these toys. If they get upset, then you need to say to them, we are only going to play with these toys for an hour every day. So every day that you come home from school, we're going to get the project case. We're going to set a timer. That helps them and it helps you. And then when the timer goes off, say, oh, the timer went off. You pick up all of those toys, put them in the project case or the bin, and you put them back. Now, if they stand there and they look bored, show them something else they can play with, but you're also going to show them that same time limit, and it can be flexible. I don't want you to think that your kids have to be set up on a strict schedule where they only play with toys for an hour and then they've got to put them back. It's about teaching them the process of pulling something out, using it, and then putting it back, which a lot of adults today have problems with. So now we're going to reverse engineer, okay? If you start out with an adult who has a problem starting a project, pulling it out, keeping it out, and then never putting it back, never having a system for it, never organizing it, and you go back 20, 30 years to when they were a kid, a lot of times it has to do with being able to pull all of their toys out at once, letting them sit there for days. Maybe the mom eventually cleans them up on the weekend, or maybe the playroom is always disheveled. There is a moment where you can set up yourself and your child for success for the next 5 years, 10 years, 40, 50 years. All of this starts when they're little, and for those who think that they cannot teach their little ones how to do this, whether they throw a fit or not isn't really the issue. It's the consistency of doing things a certain way. They may not like it on the first day, and you've got to push back a little bit and say, for now, this is what we're doing. If you say, hey, we're only going to do this for an hour. The reason that we only have an hour is because we also have to clean it up and we have to get everything cleaned up before we go eat dinner. So these are things that are very flexible as far as the actual time limits that you set, but the structure is what stays the same. And if they start to wake up, come into the kitchen, have breakfast, and then you teach them how to brush their teeth, and they already know how to brush your teeth, then that's when all of a sudden the following year you say, okay, go brush your teeth, and they leave the kitchen and they go brush their teeth, and that is how you start teaching them independence. So what have we learned today? We've learned that if a system is in place, you can start teaching it to your preschool early as they are able to sit up, okay? They may not get it, but if you start organizing in that first year of life a lot of their toys that they're going to play with over the next 2 to 3 years, then there's already a system in place. And when they're little, when they're barely sitting up, when they're doing tummy time, when they're crawling, you already have it set up. They already know where it is. They do have familiarity with their room at a young age. I'm not a doctor, not a pediatrician, not a mental health professional. I don't know what age that is, but I can tell you that once they start scooting and crawling and pulling themselves up, they're automatically going to know where certain things are, where certain toys are. By color, by shape, by size, they're going to know it. And if you already have a system in place, you start teaching them that early, it is only going to help you and it's going to help them in the long run. And at some point, that whole system comes together for both of you and everybody's happy and everyone's having fun. I hope this episode was helpful. Please make sure to go to our new website, thelabeledorganizingpodcast.com. We are going to have memberships up very, very soon. Lots of memberships between now and the spring are going to be initiated, and a lot of bonus content will be there as well. Make sure to find us on Instagram at Labeled Organizing, and I will see you in the next episode.